Hello everyone and welcome, this is Common Cam. Today I'm going to review Netflix's Transfers War for Cybertron Kingdom series. All episodes are now streaming. Now originally for this review I was going to break down each episode one by one, but that just got frustrating, and I guess that's how I feel about this series in general. I was just frustrated. Episode 1 is actually pretty good, but then episodes 2 to like 4, the pacing is crazy, and there's a lot of things that I kind of skipped over to like get back to normal to carry on with the plot. But that's only because we are cramming in so much within a 6-episode season, and I think that has been one of the biggest kind of problems throughout the entire trilogy. You got to figure about it. We've had 6, 12, 18 episodes throughout this entire trilogy. And throughout the trilogy, they go through an awful lot of stuff throughout the Transformers continuity. Like, they pull in a lot of stuff in this trilogy. And they have material that could be like 5 seasons worth, but they cram it into this 6-episode season. So I'm just going to go off right at the bat of things that I did and didn't like. Now, of course, the new thing that this series introduces is the Beast Wars characters. We got Predacons and Maximals. Now, the Beast Wars, they're not the same as the original from the cartoon. They are from the future, yes, but it's a little bit of a twist. It's not exactly the same. Unlike Beast Wars cartoon, where the Autobots and Decepticons were in stasis, in the Ark of Nemesis, and this time they are awake, and they are alive, and they are working together. So with new characters comes new voices. And yes, the voices. I'm just going to get this out of the way right now and just talk about the voices to start off with, just so I don't have to keep repeating myself. Because there's a lot of things I feel about when it comes to the voice cast of the entire trilogy. There's a lot of things that they just missed the mark on entirely. But when it comes to the Beast Wars characters, so Rhinox was actually good. I liked Rhinox's voice actor. Cheetah, yeah, okay, pretty good. When it came to Primal, I'm glad I heard more than just that teaser. I actually kind of started to warm up to his voice as the series went along, so that's good. Way more than Beast Wars Megatron's voice. With Primal, over the course of the episodes, you do get to feel that voice. It does kind of match, as the characterization of Primal is going ahead. So that was good. It's like, okay, I'm glad I heard more than I did in the teaser trailer. That's all I'm going to say about that. Rat Trap. Okay, the voice is kind of there, but in some episodes it kind of goes, the accent, like it kind of loses it, and then it gets it again. Tigertron, bad. Tigertron is just bad. It's a completely different character from the Tigertron that we know, and he doesn't even do much in the series anyway, for me to really care about much, so it's like, okay, whatever. Airazor just sounded like a normal person. Airazor just sounded like a normal person. It didn't feel, I don't know, pretty unique. It just sounded like a casual person doing an Airazor voice, and it's like, okay. Black Arachnia, okay, actually pretty good. I liked the Black Arachnia voice. I think it worked out really well. Scorponok, didn't really hear much of him at all to really make a judgment. Dinobot was a disappointment, to be fair. The entire character of Dinobot was a disappointment in this series. Unlike the original Dinobot, where he would like not be so open about how he feels, he's kind of closed off, and his actions speak more than his words, to show from his transition to a Predacon to a Maximal, he's more honourable. But this Dinobot, I feel like that character needed more grovel, more grit to its voice, and it just didn't have any of that, unfortunately, so the voice just didn't sell it for me at all. But I think the biggest offender of this entire series has got to be Megatron. Beast Wars Megatron, to be specific. It's just a bad voice. It doesn't fit. It's not just a voice either. It's actually the characterization of Beast Wars Megatron. It's nothing like the Beast Wars Megatron that we know from the series, which some people might be like, oh, that's a good thing. It's something new, right? It's something that you've always wanted. It's like, okay, if that's something new, is a groveling, whiny little bitch, I don't want to hear it. And that's all I heard from this series. The Beast Wars Megatron, the amount of times he sucks up to Megatron, it annoys me. It even annoys Megatron, and I thought that was even funny. I thought that was actually funny, because for once I felt relatable to a character in this series. Megatron's just like, you are not Megatron, I am Megatron. It's like, oh, when other characters are self-aware, and they make a few jokes throughout this series a lot, that this Beast Wars Megatron is just a knockoff. He's a disgrace. He's nothing, and it's just like, it doesn't make it good that the writers are writing this in and acknowledging that. Even if it's from a character point of view, it's really, really bad. I think it's one of the worst offenders of this entire trilogy. I never want to hear that voice again. Every time I had a headache as well watching this. Every time he would do something like interrupt a scene or grovel and kiss up to Megatron's ass. I just hated it. Hated every moment of it. Never want to see it again. When it comes to the Autobots and Decepticons voice cast, they are pretty much the same as they have been throughout the trilogy, which is unfortunate, but it's just expected at this point. You know, Megatron sounds like he's always trying to give an Oscar performance, while Optimus Prime just constantly is slow and constantly has faith in everything, and I am sick and tired of hearing faith throughout this entire trilogy, going beyond all facts, logic, and reason. We actually do hear Soundwave a bit more in this season, and honestly, that voice needs to die. I never want to hear that voice again. There was actually a moment, I think it was episode 3, where Dinobot was versing Beast Wars Megatron and Megatron, but he fights Soundwave first, and it actually seems like he killed Soundwave, but he didn't, which is unfortunate. So while we're on the topic, let's actually talk about characterizations now of each of the characters. So yeah, with Beast Wars Megatron, he did nothing in this series. He literally did nothing at all. There was nothing to him. You know, he kind of disappeared towards the end of the episodes. Like, he just kind of vanished out of the background. He only showed up when he needed to save Megatron. That was what was annoying to me the most, is just when he saved him in the entire time. It's like, okay, so this character has lost all meaning. It's a complete offender from the original Beast Wars Megatron, but did a lot more. That actually was a standalone character, despite sharing the same name, which is interesting because when it comes to the Beast Wars, they kind of are like their original counterparts, except from Tigatron and sort of Dinobot. Tigatron did nothing at all. He kind of just disappeared. It was established I had a relationship with Airazor, but that kind of vanished, and Airazor's relationship was kind of more the centered point with Dinobot, so it was kind of like, yeah, every time Dinobot and Airazor was having a moment, I was just kind of like, I wonder what Tigatron feels about this. So now let's talk about Dinobot. Dinobot is a very important character in the Beast Wars continuity. He's one of the most definitive, the most memorable, and most liked out of all the Beast Wars characters. This is a character that entered in the Hall of Fame of Transformers. And in the original Beast Wars cartoon, he died. He had a noble, honorable death. It was a sacrifice throughout the series that was like a really emotional, gut-wrenching. Like, it was like, wow, you know. And you know why? Because we had a lot of time, a lot of episodes to build it up, and what this series does is skip like all that time, all that kind of dedication and energy into exploring his character, and they kill him off in the 3rd episode. And it's like, okay, what a waste. You know, it's, for one, I don't feel connected to this Dinobot at all. You know, even if they are going to do something kind of different with Dinobot, you know, it's like, okay, I need time to kind of understand this new Dinobot. And the problem with Dinobot is that he's explaining everything he's doing in the moment. Like, he's explaining why he's defecting, he's explaining all this kind of things. I'm like, do you need to explain? You know, actions speak louder than words. It's like, you know, and that's a lot with the original Dinobot. You know, he didn't have to say everything on his mind, and to be fair, he kind of used it as a defense mechanism to not share a lot. You know, so with this Dinobot literally explaining every single thing on why he's doing it, the death just felt like it didn't feel meaningful. It didn't feel great, especially considering this Dinobot has no kind of connection to any of the Maximals or Autobots at all, except from Airazor, and that's it. We have a scene with Dinobot and Optimus Primal, how you would have been a good Maximal or the worst Maximal. Yeah, it's a joke, like, but still, it's like, we've never seen them two together until now, until his death, so it's like, okay, whatever. As the series goes on, there's a lot of things that are played about, with the AllSpark being kind of like a singular being, how it's dying, how it needs the Autobots more than the AllSpark needs them. You know, we've got a lot of kind of layers, with Megatron being rejected by the AllSpark and the Matrix, you know, and there's just a lot of faith being spreaded across, like just relying on faith over and over and over again, and it's just kind of frustrating. And that's just how I felt about throughout the series. There's a lot of points where it's like, alright, where are we going to go from here? And it's like, oh, just rely on faith. And it's just like, okay, now you've lost me. You know, it's like, Optimus Prime, I'm sick and tired of hearing you talk about faith. Can we please move on? I think one of the only interesting things that happens throughout this series that I was kind of on board with is episode 5, where Starscream and Black Arachnia, like, their team up is actually really funny and interesting. You know, it's like just good to see them two on screen, which is bizarre because I've never been really interested in Starscream up until this point, until he actually looks at the golden disc. There's a point where Black Arachnia manages to mess around with Megatron's golden disc, and Starscream takes it and sees the future, and he's kind of horrified by it, and it was just kind of interesting to see him suddenly switch, and now he wants to do everything he can to stop Unicron. Like, he shows Megatron how he actually is Galvatron. Now when it comes to Galvatron, his involvement, he's briefly mentioned at the first episode, but that's about it. And Nemesis Prime, doesn't really do an awful lot either. They are basically just new creations from Unicron in the distant future, and they go through the dead universe to try and rewrite their history, and they don't want Unicron to know about it. And this is where there's a lot of multiverse layers overlapping each other, like the future and the past all colliding, and it's just kind of a bit of a head scratch. And unlike Marvel, which kind of actually know what they're doing with the multiverse, they don't actually. I don't know, it just seems more confusing, even though it's a confusing concept to begin with. I know, I don't want to talk about it too much. I don't want to go too much into it. I'll just do that in a different video, perhaps in the future. But this series overall in general, it has a lot of good marks. There are some good action moments, even though a majority of the action can be dull as well. Sometimes the sound effects will actually overlay the voices, so you can't actually hear what they're saying, but you can just hear the blasters kind of really, really loud. But there are a lot of cool moments scattered across this series for sure, like when the Ark transforms. I thought that was a cool moment, Teletran 1 transforming. There's just a lot of cool moments just kind of scattered throughout this series. I mean, one of the best things we got out of episode 3, we have Monkey Butt. Yeah, that's right, we get a good look at Optimus Primal's ass. Oh, okay, moving on. Good jokes scattered here and there, like when Optimus Prime says maximize, and Hound's like, wait, does that mean transform? There are some appropriate jokes made which actually lighten it up a little bit, which are jokes that I was hoping to hear, because we've got Beast Wars and Generation 1 pretty much meeting in a series. It's kind of like, let's play around with that. There's got to be a lot of good dialogue lines. And to be fair, that's when the dialogue is at its best, when it comes to the humour. I thought the dialogue in general was pretty lame. There was not a lot of good kind of big speeches. There was one good line where Soundwave is saying the Nemesis weapons are down, and Megatron's like, I am the weapon, and he just kind of storms out to take on the Autobots, which I just thought was a cool epic moment. But overall, I don't know, it's it's got a lot of good stuff, but it's a lot of stuff that I just thought was a bit lame, and it's just how I expected. To be fair, I really wanted this to be different, and the only thing that is really different is just the Beast characters, and that's about it. But the conclusion, how it ends, the ending of this series, I'm gonna have to do a different video talking about that, because they kind of leave it as there's another season coming with Unicron. I won't go into it too much, but it's just kind of wait, what? Is this going to be a continuation to the next Hasbro toy line, or is this where the continuity ends? Is this the end of War for Cybertron continuity, or are we going to continue it in the future? I don't know, there's a lot of speculations on what the next toy line could be, and whatever the next toy line will be will determine if this Netflix series will continue. But I don't know. I don't know if I really want it to. Overall, the entire trilogy just felt like a head scratch. To be fair, there's a lot of missed marks, and maybe if Netflix put more effort and budget into this, maybe it could have turned out totally different, but they didn't, and that's just what we gotta live with. This is just it. This is the final product, and overall, it's just not. It just wasn't good enough for me. Just wasn't good enough. There'll be more videos down the line in the future for me to talk about this more, as I can kind of wrap my head around it, because doing this review alone, there's been a lot of things I've edited around, jumped around, and to save for other videos, because there's just too much, and I don't want this review to drag on. And I don't want this review to drag on like the series has dragged on. So that's kind of all I'm going to say there. But please do share me your thoughts in the comment section below if you have watched all the episodes already. For more Transformers news, be sure to subscribe, click that notification bell to get all updates instantly. This has been Common and Cam, and goodbye.